Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a really exciting episode. In today's data-driven world, public data has become a critical resource for powering artificial intelligence and large language models across industry. Thank you all for joining us and taking a look at this episode as we examine the latest trends and real-world applications and best practices in harnessing the versatility of public web data to fuel innovation, maintain ethical standards, and drive the workforce of tomorrow. Or if you don't mind, please tell us a little bit about your personal history and how you came to be part of Bright Data.
Great. And Matthew, thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here. So I'm Lenchner. I am the CEO of Bright Data since late 2018. I have been with the company since 2015, so almost from the establishment of the company. I'm a product guy. I build products. This is what I like to do. This is what I've been doing prior to Bright Data, always building web stuff, product of whatever it is. If you can click it on the web, I tried to build it, failed many times, succeeded a few. And roughly
Amazing.
2015, I got to know this new company that just started in Israel. And I literally, in a couple of weeks after I met the founders, I sold all of the products and businesses that I had and just focused on this company and joined as a product manager. And I started building these products, and I'll explain what we're doing in a second, and grew with the company pretty fast, I have to say, until I took over as CEO after we got acquired by a private equity firm back in 2017. So all of my professional history is building stuff and trying to see people using them. Um, I still think that this is what I'm doing today. Just the product that I'm managing is a company, but the basics are the same. You need to look at the data, fix what's broken. In many cases, it's by putting the right people in the right places, giving them the right goals, and that's it. In Bright Data, we're doing one specific thing that is very hard to do, but if you're focused on one thing, then you increase the chances to succeed. This is building technology and products to collect a lot of data from the internet. This is what we've been doing for the last decade.
Yeah, let's get in a little bit into the details about Bright Data and exactly what you're working on. So everyone is familiar with LLMs and how they use data to generate responses. The richness of web data across different domains and languages provides better contextual understandings for LLMs. So why are companies like Bright Data important?
So when you think about it, every AI company that you know, use, tried out, or just read about, they all have like three main assets that they have to try to constantly improve and to invest a lot in order to be the best in this industry. The first thing is, I would say, I would call it talent or skill. This is why you're seeing all of these companies, trying to recruit the talent from each other,
Yeah,
and everyone on the LinkedIn has X this, X that. They just pass through all these companies,
yeah,
because the smart people, the skills that they have is, those people are actually writing the algorithms and the LLMs. The second thing that is very important, and I think it's needless to explain why, compute. This is the GPUs. This is why NVIDIA is NVIDIA. And the third leg, for this infrastructure that they all are chasing is tokens. Tokens means data. So usually what we're seeing is that AI companies start out, they will go to open source data sets just to start training their models. They will train their models thanks to the talent that they have, and will train it and run it with the compute that they bought, the GPUs.
mhm,
But then at a certain point, if everyone are taking the same data sets to build their AI models, and they have the same skill set and they're buying the GPUs from the same company, then it all
Yeah.
leveled up. And then how can you win? And the one thing that you can keep to improve, constantly improve, is to add more data, make it more specific, improve the quality of the data, and also add a lot of it. So it's all comes together to what data am I using and how much of it am I using to train my LLM to be the best in what it intends to do.
With so many industries out there, like e-commerce, healthcare, finance, how can web data be tailored to meet the specific needs of these industries?
Yeah, so I think that the main challenge that we're seeing now is that once you're starting to be more industry specific as an AI company and you want to fine tune your model to be the best it can be in a specific industry, mostly for like commercial reasons, right? You want to grow in this industry, you want to sell more to that industry. Then the challenge is not to collect the data. It's even before that. It's where this data sits in the internet. So, okay, I want all of the, I don't know, math exams in the world. Good idea, where the hell where can I find it? I
Yeah.
want all the laws in a certain country because I want to, fine tune my LLM and sell it to law firms. Great idea. Where will I find that? So this is actually the main challenge that we're seeing as a data company, as a data collection company right now. And once you figure that out, then you can use the existing infrastructure of Bright Data or any other web scraping company to collect the data. Some of it will be easier to collect, some of it will be much harder. As long
Hmm.
as it's public, it can and should be collected, and we can definitely help with that. But the main issue now is where is it? This is why we are hearing quite a lot on synthetic data,
Hmm.
because these companies usually think, okay, I consumed all of the web. Now I need to reinvent data to train my model. Actually, that's not the case. That's not the reality right now. It's just because you don't know what you don't know. You don't really know that this data exists on the web. We, as a data company, the biggest scraping company in the world, are constantly mapping the internet. So actually, we know that this data is out there somewhere, and we can help, you know, getting it. You just asked about a few specific industries, and I didn't answer that actually. So,
Hmm.
for example, we see a lot of models now being fine-tuned to education, to legal, as I said,
Yeah.
health, and e-commerce, as you mentioned. So this is where we see a lot of demand coming for specific industry data sets that our customers are trying to get. So it's again, it's about, if you want legal, then you need to know what websites you can reach out to. We can help with that and get the legal information and so on. So it's really industry specific, and this is where we can drill down into different verticals.
That's fascinating. Using web data to train these models does bring up some important ethical questions that many creators and businesses are definitely concerned with. Can you talk a bit about who owns the data found on the web and how it should be treated by AI developers specifically?
Yeah, that's obviously a hot topic.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not straightforward enough yet. So what we're seeing now is a lot of litigation going on and also a lot of regulation starting to come up, which is a positive thing. Actually, I think that litigation is really important when it comes to new innovative technologies, just because lawsuits are usually faster than legislators and regulators, and they're kind of setting the ground for the legislators and the regulators to have like an initial framework to work with. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing lawsuits from creators to AI companies and data owners to AI companies and vice versa. We see all of that. again, that's maybe most people, hear litigation and kind of back off, but I actually think it's a positive thing for the
Hmm.
industry to progress. Now, just think about the real world for a second and not the internet. These are hard questions, even in the real world, when these things are being discussed
Sure.
for 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So someone wrote that book, and another person read this book and got inspiration. Is it stealing or not? I
Where do
don't
we draw
think
the
that
line? Yeah.
exactly. So we as Bright Data, we actually draw the line before these difficult questions of who owns the data to what can you collect and what you shouldn't collect. That's an easier question. And we also proved that in court a couple of times in the US in two major court cases that we won. We think
Oh,
that
really?
as long as the data is public, which means you can see it without doing any login or a sign up process. So just imagine yourself opening an incognito browser, going to a website. As long as you can see it, this is public data that you can consume if you're a human or if you are a bot. If you need to do any type of authentication to go through a sign up, paywall, login, whatever, this data is not public anymore. We, as a data collection company, don't think it should be collected. So we won't. And that's like we proved that, I mean, in court like a couple of times this year. So this is an easier framework to work with, to start with. And then you're getting into more niche edge cases of, okay, does an image, can I use a specific image to train the model? Can I use a specific video to train the model? I think that's where we need to wait a couple more years to get like final rulings in courts and then adoption by the legislators and the regulators to actually see where it's going. And but just like private information, GDPR, CCPA, all of these initiatives that we heard a decade ago when it all started about my personal information in the internet, it was all like a chaos and gray areas. It's actually a good thing because regulators and legislators got decisions. You can like it or hate it, but at least you know what you can and cannot do. I think that the same thing will happen in the next 2 to 3 years in the AI world.
That's incredibly fascinating information. Thank you. Or I think we could spend an entire segment just talking about the legal implications of web data, right?
I
But let's
I
move
I
on.
I can for sure, but I'm
Yeah,
not sure it will be
yeah. I mean,
interesting.
it is it's top of mind for many organizations. There's no doubt, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a hot button topic. Let's move on to a little bit of a different topic that's equally concerning for many organizations, and that's this issue of bias. So the world is inherently a divided place, and the web is filled with highly skewed and biased opinions. What steps does Bright Data take to address how this biased content can affect AI outputs? Can you begin by maybe perhaps even providing a notable example of how bias in AI has had social impact in the real world?
Yeah, I think that the most common examples are anything that is related to like data that has a lot of just human images in it, and then you will always see unintentionally, but you'll always see gender and race related biases that are bad, but they
Yep.
actually represent in many cases the reality because
Mhm.
humanity is sometimes racial and uh, gender biased for the negative part of it. So these
Mhm.
are biases that you can, you can find a ton of stories on bad things that happened in models just because they use the data set that is toxic in a way. We are trying to, so we have this um, constant guideline on everything, not just on data set bias, but also when it comes to ethical scraping and fair usage of data and all of that. But it's true also for data set bias is first of all, be transparent with the other side. Don't let
Mhm.
anyone guesstimate anything. So if we're talking about data set bias, make sure you're transparent about the data set, where it is coming from, when it was collected. These simple things that should be clear and transparent to everyone can actually give a lot of context to the company that will use the data and can help them to remove a lot of bias in the preparation of the data just by knowing more. So that's the first. Just be transparent. No, you don't want to sell something while hiding something. Maybe you'll make a quick buck now, but that's not good for business.
But down
Always
the
be
road,
transparent.
you'll have to pay for that later, no doubt.
Big time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and just by being transparent, you give more control to the company that buys the data to get their own independent decisions because they don't want to have bias as well. But you also need to understand that you will always have bias to some extent because
Yes.
just by choosing to train your model on this data, even before trying to clean it, this is your brain getting a decision. That's bias because you're a human with
Mhm.
history, with
Mhm.
experiences, with thoughts, opinions, and that's like an inherent bias. Also acknowledge that, okay? Because then the output of the model has this bias in it, and at least knowing that and acknowledging that is meaningful. And so that's just like two high level principles. To the more practical answer, we because we're serving so many customers, roughly 20,000 companies worldwide, we actually see the internet. We actually map the internet, and this activity is based on such a large scale. And all of these, 20,000 customers are serving probably hundreds of millions, if not billions, of
Yeah.
actual internet users, you,
Yeah.
me. So it kind of represent every day, every minute, kind of represent the world. And it's biased because the world is biased.
Of
So you
course.
really want to buy the data or get the data and train on the data as closest to the point that it was created because it represents the actual world bias. And don't think that you can build a model without bias because the world is biased and the model need to represent the world. A bit philosophical, and I apologize for that, but that's the
It's
reality.
it's the reality and it's quite insightful. So thank you so much, or it's compelling. There's no doubt.
Thanks.
So before we close up today, can you first tell me why you think Bright Data should lead the conversation with organizations on how they use data, how to make these decisions properly beyond what you've already shared?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to even react on that amazing question.
Yeah.
First of all, just because we decided that we're going to do that. And for the next decade, we were focused only on doing that. Our sole mission is to unlock access to public data on the web. And being focused only on that gave us a lot of knowledge and a lot of tools to think about that and to react on that and to experiment on that and to advise on that. And we always did it without, would even say without apologizing. We
Mhm.
think that we know more than the average um, internet user or even web expert on web data because that's our business and this is what we're doing for a living. And we are also seeing such an immense scale that just based on our internal data and what we're seeing as a data company analyzing our own business, we just have better facts. You understand? So it's just a matter of doing that something with a lot of focus for a very long time in a huge scale. You actually have the answers just by doing that. So we hardly ever guess. We usually just check.
Mhm.
And again, then being very transparent with the other side, with the experts, with the AI companies, with even with, as I said, with the regulators. and help them to learn what we already know. And then you can have a very fruitful discussion, which is based on data, on facts, and not just on ideas and theories. So this is
Sounds
where we
like
put a lot
companies
of effort.
who rely on your services are definitely in good hands. There's no doubt about that.
I guarantee that.
Yeah. So I always like to end things on an entrepreneurial note. You mentioned at the beginning of this interview that you've failed a lot more times and succeeded a few. What advice would you give to people who are on their own entrepreneurial journey?
Um, Less drama. It's really, I think, a key because, just anyone can think about a very, very intense, dramatic incident in their lives. It can be like in a relationship, in the professional life, I don't know, family related. At the same
Mhm.
moment, it looked like the world is collapsing, and you probably actually felt like that. It was
Sure.
real for you. But then, like 5 years have passed, you will think back 5 years and you say, "What? What was I thinking?"
Yeah.
So, if it's on a personal level, maybe it's good to feel that way. But on a professional level, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's trying to build something, usually it will be something that no one succeeded building before.
Mhm.
You will experience that 10 times a day. It's really important to like virtually or really slap yourself in the face for a second and say, okay, no
Yeah.
drama. In a year from now, I will be laughing on what just happened. Let's
It
just
will be
figure it
okay.
out step by step, and it will be okay. And I will place my bets that something way more dramatic will happen tomorrow. So let's just keep going. Let's just keep pushing.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
Um, Absolutely agree. But
Yeah.
even the faint of heart can just stop being faint of heart. Just remove the drama. And
Yeah.
if even, I won't say it'll be okay. Maybe it won't be okay, but still, drama won't help. So again,
Couldn't
maybe a
agree
bit
more.
too philosophical, and I apologize for that, but I truly believe that.
You're clearly a philosophical guy, so I love it. It's been a really wonderful interview. Or thank you so much for donating your time today. And Bright Data is at the forefront of so many compelling, really thought-provoking questions. And it's great to know that companies like yours exist and are out there thinking of the world at large and how AI fits into everything.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, public data is public. Let's keep it this way. We are doing a lot to keep it this way, and let's use it for good. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.